Just loading. All right, we're live.
Thank you, Dominic. I want to welcome everyone to this forum on the 2022 Tompkins County budget. Members of the legislature have been familiarizing themselves with this recommended budget that came from our interim county administrator for 6 meetings now, and it's time for you to get a little briefing from Lisa Holmes about what's in our budget. And then we're here to hear what you have to say about that. And that's a process that will be moderated by Dominic Recchio. So I'm going to turn this over to Lisa and let her make a presentation. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you, Deborah. And welcome, everyone. Glad to be with you tonight. Again, my name is Lisa Holmes. I'm the interim county administrator. And I'm going to start by sharing my screen. Okay. I'm assuming you can all see my screen with the 2022 recommended budget. So tonight I'm just going to provide a high-level summary of the 2022 recommended budget for you. And for more detail about any of the items that I discuss, the budget document in its entirety is available on the county's webpage. So let's see. Starting right here with just a very snapshot version of what's in store. The county's 2022 recommended budget totals $194 million approximately. It's balanced with a property tax levy increase of 2.7%, which falls below the estimated tax cap, which is estimated to be at 7.42% this year. So if approved, as is, the budget would now add $42 to the tax bill of a median home, which is now valued at $205,000. The budget also includes an increase in the solid waste annual fee, a $5 increase from $70 to $75. I've captured some of the main highlights of the 2022 budget here in this slide. Sales tax is a major budget driver. It's the second largest revenue in the county budget after property tax. And we've seen a very strong rebound in sales tax revenues so far in 2021. And we're taking a cautious approach to projecting sales tax for 2022 using projections and indicators that the economy will continue on a path of recovery, but we're still cautious about some of the unknowns of COVID-19 and the impact that may continue to have on our economy over the next year. So sales tax is rebounding. We've also benefited from New York State announcing a significant reduction in employer contributions to the pension fund, which amounts to an annual savings of $1.2 million in the county's budget. Thirdly, the county received funds through the American Rescue Plan Act, and I'll be providing some more details on that in just a couple of minutes. But because of the combination of these factors on the revenue side, we're able to restore county operations and a number of staff positions, as well as restore support to sponsored agencies. And it provides us with the means by which to invest in the county's capital program, where we'll be able to achieve the goal of net zero emissions by 2027, which is really exciting and good for us. So yeah, a little bit more detail. In 2022, departments, county departments, as well as supported agencies were asked to produce a maintenance of effort budget to keep any increase to the tax levy as low as possible while maintaining necessary services. In the recommended budget, we're able to support the restoration of 34 full-time equivalent positions back to the county across 16 different departments. In this current year's budget, we had to reduce the number of full-time staff by 47 positions. So this is just a partial restoration, and in many cases, departments restructured the way they delivered services. So these restorations aren't exactly one-to-one as to where they were in previous years. but we were able to restore a number of positions. We also were able to support several one-time and over-target requests for funding of departmental programs, as well as new initiatives, including reimagining public safety, where the county committed to a process and several projects to address the disproportionate impacts of the public safety system on communities of color. And multiple projects are funded across several departments relating to this initiative, as well as other initiatives. But this one in particular is in partnership with the city of Ithaca, who is also making investments in this initiative through its budget process. In the 2022 budget, we were also able to restore target funding to our sponsored agencies listed here: Cornell Cooperative Extension, Ithaca Area Economic Development, the Tompkins County Public Library, our rural library systems, Human Services Coalition and the agencies supported by it, OAR, and Tompkins Community Action. We're also providing one-time support totaling nearly $500,000 to a number of local agencies and nonprofits. And again, there's much more to say about all of these things, but we're keeping this to a pretty high-level overview tonight. Now, to touch on the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, this is a major source of aid to us in the 2022 budget. Tompkins County has received $19.8 million in ARPA funds, half of which we're receiving in 2022, the other half in 2021, the other half next year in 2022. These are one-time funds for specific uses, and specific rules and guidelines apply. In July of this year, the legislature passed a resolution to claim 100% of the ARPA funds as lost revenue for government services. We're directing 75% of these funds toward capital projects, approximately $14.8 million. And the remainder are we're going to be using for one-time uses, which amounts to about $3.9 million directed at one-time requests for department and supported agencies that we're able to fund through this budget and through the ARPA funds. So, and lastly, just to touch on the capital reinvestment, the county is in the midst of a robust period of capital investment to meet its space management, emergency services, information technology, energy, and other needs. And a cornerstone of our capital plan is a financial strategy to achieve net zero emissions by 2027. This will require investment in our green facilities programs, and it means we can get started next year on a number of projects to accelerate the county's energy goals. It allocates $14.9 million of the ARPA funds on cash for capital projects, which is a good use of these funds because they are one-time in nature, and because it means the county will not have to bond for these projects and pay debt service. So that is, again, a high-level summary of the county's recommended budget for 2022. And again, for any more detail on these items, the budget document can be found on the county's webpage. Happy to turn this over now to Dominic for moderating the next segment, which is public feedback.
Great. Thank you, Lisa. And I'm going to invite members of the public who've registered and joined on here one by one in the order that they raised their hand to share their public comment here with the legislators. A reminder to attendees that if you have a specific question about budget that isn't really high level, we'll answer it either in the chat or try to get your email address so we can send that to you afterward as well. So our first speaker tonight is Elizabeth Hudson.
Good evening, all. Thank you for your dedication to our community and for your careful and considerate deliberation on matters that concern us all. My name is Liz Hudson. I'm a development, operations, and compliance professional who has worked in both for and not-for-profit industries. Today, I'm proud to speak to you as a board member of Finger Lakes Reuse. I'm in strong support of the over-target request submitted by legislators Ann Corman, Rich John, Dave McKenna, and Martha Robertson, and hopefully adopted unanimously by you all. There is good reason to think that's possible. The OTR describes our vital role in the community, our alignment with the county's vision, and the broad impacts of our work. Reuse has been a growing organization since its conception. In 2019, that growth took an exponential turn. We saw material donations. That's what community members just like you drop off so that those items can recirculate to new households, businesses, and purposes. We saw those donations increase by a remarkable 70% over the year prior, and combined data for 2020 and 2021 show anything but a reversal of that trend. Material donations have skyrocketed 132% since 2019. And this is despite Reuse experiencing the same 2020 lockdowns as other businesses. It's plain. The people who live here, your constituents, myself, utilize Finger Lakes Reuse as community infrastructure, mirroring expectations of our access to waste and recycling services, or even parks and recreational facilities. Finger Lakes Reuse is taken by community members to be a given, and rightfully so, given the county's work towards a more circular and accessible economy. Yet it's not funded as such. Reuse has responded to this incredible demand with constant improvements in workflow, increased training, building equipment upgrades, growing private donations, even structural reorganization. As a board member and a professional, I am consistently impressed by the staff's knowledge of their business, their data-driven approach to identifying obstacles and building solutions, their ability to incorporate real-time feedback, and always how they stretch every resource in service of the organization's mission and the community's need. This one-time 3-year request for county support restores the lost RMMD funding. Nearly needless to say, this is at an amount that does not take into account current and projected inflation, but will nonetheless be put to tremendous use. This over-target request is a deal for county residents. Please vote to adopt. Thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you, Liz. Next is Barbara Regan.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, I'm Barbara Regan. I'm an ordinary citizen of Ithaca. I was active in Decarcerate Tompkins when we worked with you to prevent the jail from expanding a few years ago. So my passion, and that is also related to my field of it, my professional field of educational studies. My passion is gradual decarceration. And I want to advocate tonight for the Sunflower Houses, which is the project that would cost the county, I believe, $111,000. And I want to argue not from the obvious humanitarian perspective that we argue for decarceration. I want to argue that it would save a tremendous amount of money to invest in housing and wraparound services for recently decarcerated people. I want to say that I think most of you know Kirby Edmonds, who died in the last year. Kirby Edmonds had, and his associates had, the most marvelous project on the table when my children were young, and they're now in their 30s. It didn't go anywhere, but it was so well researched. There was so much enthusiasm for it. And as sometimes happens, in the county and everywhere, there's this loss of public memory. But the proposal was to invest in the 50 most vulnerable families in the Ithaca area, to invest heavily in wraparound services. And they did the meticulous work of projecting how much money it would ultimately save the county to take care of people at a very deep level. In other words, a relatively low number of people. And of course, many of those 50 most vulnerable families represented recently decarcerated people and people who, who were recidivists, who we saw again and again in the county jail. I just want to make a plea that I think it would be like a really smart move in terms of budget to invest these $111,000 in the Sunflower House project. Thank you very much for your time. And I have tremendous respect for all of you. I want to repeat what I always say when I testify. I could never do your jobs, and I have tremendous respect that you hang in and do it. Anyway, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Barbara. Next, we have Anna Ragula. Anna Ragula.
Hello, I'm Anna Ragula. I've been a community member for over 40 years. You can't see me, so you don't get to see how old I am. But I raised 4 kids in Tompkins County, and I am a professor at TC3, and I teach new teachers in the early childhood education program. And one of the things that I'm also a board member on the Child Development Council. So I have a strong passion for children and ensuring that they have access to quality childcare. And so I am here tonight just to speak in support of the grant funding for building access to childcare. And for me, as a teacher, the pandemic has required a lot of reimagining of things. And as a lifelong learner, I have had to rethink through things that I never thought I would have to do with teaching. And I think that this proposal has reimagined, it has refocused on the parts that were most critical and useful and effective, and will help people in our community on so many levels. It will help our children, it will help our families, and it will help our economics, because we have a society now after the pandemic that has people out of work or people that want to work and don't have care. And building access, the funding that this will focus on the kind of childcare that will provide more choice for families. And we don't even have enough spots. We're a desert, a childcare desert. So that was before the pandemic. And now after the pandemic, to be honest, it's far worse. And I know that it's hard to get, it's just not possible to find access to quality care. So I really am hoping that you will consider reinstating that funding. And one of the things that I think is important to think about here is that the support they're going to give, we can, I can prep all the teachers in the world, but starting a new business and traversing the regulations that are essential to protect our children and families is a lot. And this grant is going to provide support that will allow people who are dedicated to children and families to be successful in establishing a business, perhaps in their home. And it's a lot to figure out those, how to traverse all the systems. And there's a lot of inequities that can occur when we have structural systems in place that, you need someone to help you translate. And I think the Child Development Council is really excellent and knowledgeable in supporting individuals in working through those so that they can be successful and focus on providing those spaces for children to flourish.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
Yeah. Next up, we have Diane Cohen. And just a reminder to speakers, we have quite a few people signed up to speak tonight. So we're keeping to about a 3-minute limit, which I'm keeping with a timer here. So I'll put a message in the chat when you're reaching close to that 3 minutes, but thank you. Diane?
Great, thanks, Dominic. And hello to everyone. I'm Diane Cohen, Executive Director of Finger Lakes Reuse. I'm speaking about the OTR request for Finger Lakes reuse for $130,000 per year for 3 years to reestablish funding that was cut in 2021. This critical funding will help retain and support key positions over the next 3 years, leverage additional grant opportunities, and support our neighbors, businesses, and many other organizations. The return on this investment will be enormous for the county, and we'll be delighted to provide updates to Peak or whichever committee you'd like. Unlike our recycling operation, Finger Lakes Reuse keeps valuable materials local and affordably available and gives thousands of dollars in materials away to people in need each year. Finger Lakes Reuse provides 75 living wage jobs with health benefits. We employ, preserve, and teach the marketable and high demand skill sets associated with the repair, maintenance, construction, and technology, helping to prepare an engaged and vibrant workforce. We exist because Tompkins County Recycling and Materials Management Division had a reuse center in their solid waste management plan and prioritized reuse in the county charter. With the county's help, Finger Lakes Reuse was founded in 2007 and is now recognized as an innovative leader and a role model across New York State. Reuse is an act of caring. It is about the health and well-being of people. At Finger Lakes Reuse, where we are working hard to exemplify the principles of justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, keeping a safe and healthy work environment is essential. Our current challenges began back in 2019 when the number of drop-off donations at our reuse center spiked by 70% over 2018. This overwhelmed our workers and our facilities. We realized we had to review our operations, so we got to work adjusting everything, finding efficiencies, restructuring our staff, modifying our donation handling systems and policies. We've been truly grateful to our major partners, including the county, the Park Foundation, Triad Foundation, and Community Foundation of Tompkins County. With the help of these partners and many others, in 2020, we were able to combine workforce development programming and expanded retail and warehouse space to provide opportunities for out-of-work community members while managing the rising surge of materials, made even more challenging because of the pandemic. Reuse is a great way to engage, educate, inspire, and bring people together. This year, we expect to sell nearly 1 million items. That's more than 2,700 items per day, and there's still much more to do. Please support this critical funding, and thank you for your work and for caring about our community.
Thank you, Diane. Next, we have Melissa Perry. Melissa, you should be able to unmute now. Give it a couple seconds. All right, Melissa, we'll come back to you. Next, we have Jason Evans. Oh, nope, there you are. Sorry. Go ahead, Melissa.
Sorry about that. I was having a little trouble.
No
Thank you, everyone. My name is Melissa Perry. I'm the CEO at the Child Development Council. I'm here to speak to you tonight about our Building Access to Childcare proposal. We appreciate the support we've received over the past 3 years for our project, and we are offering up a revised proposal that really focuses on the most successful pieces of our pilot program. So as we've learned during the pandemic and even before that, childcare is really the backbone of a healthy community and a healthy workforce. And unfortunately, Tompkins County is a childcare desert. And what a childcare desert is, it's 3 or more children who need a spot. So 3 or more children for every spot for childcare. So Tompkins County has over 3 children for every childcare spot. So we do not have enough care for every child who needs or wants it. So that's what building access to childcare is, focusing on 3 main components of building the supply of childcare. So offering individualized supports to those who are interested in providing care, really helping them build their business from the ground up, start to finish. They're getting that individualized support. We have done that through our pilot program, and all of the programs that we supported through the pilot are still running their businesses. Their doors are open, they're providing care for children. while other programs who opened up during that time have already closed their doors. So it's been successful, proven successful, that those individualized supports really help. We'll also provide business supports for childcare providers. So working with them through the pandemic has really highlighted the need for business supports for providers. They're focused on the care for children and not so much on the back end office stuff. So especially during the pandemic, providers really struggled with the financial policies in response to unexpected closures and absences. When funding, the federal and state funding became available, they were not really prepared to take advantage of that because they weren't set up for those business supports. So helping them with those business supports from the start of their business is really giving them a very firm foundation. So we're ensuring their long-term success in that way and giving them the tools to not only provide the quality care for children, but also to run successful businesses for a long time. And also we run Becoming a Provider sessions. So anybody who's interested in providing childcare, we walk them through that process, let them know what the need is out there, and just get the word out about that. So I know I'm running out of time here. So I wanted to say, we really appreciate the support that we've received, and we would definitely appreciate continuing to receive funding from the county for this project so we don't lose the gains that we have made during our pilot program. And we want to increase the supply of childcare for the benefit of the community and the children and the families in it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Next, we have Jason Evans. And just a reminder to other panel or other attendees as well, if you can use the raised hand function if you plan to speak tonight so we can keep a running list of who's up next, that'd be helpful. So thanks, Jason.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Okay, good evening and thank you for your time. Property taxes are a huge burden on those who live in the county. It's one of the most regressive types of tax that penalizes people for owning a home and especially cripples those with limited incomes. The property taxes in Tompkins County are already too high. On top of the nearly $10 million in American Rescue Plan Act aid for this year and major growth in the tax base, you're proposing a tax increase of almost 3%. We need leaders who are willing to tackle this most pressing issue, not make it worse. And I urge my representative, Ann, to work to reduce the property tax burden rather than increase it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Next, we have Gideon Stone.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I just want to apologize in advance. I've got a couple of dogs in the background that are not happy about some cars parked across the street, so I'll try to make this quick. I'm the owner and CEO of Trade Design Build here locally, but I'm here tonight to represent If for Use. I'm one of the current board members for that organization. Diane and Liz both spoke more eloquently and in depth about the organization than I probably could at this point, especially with the distraction behind me. The one thing I did want to say to add to their comments was just the breadth and diversity of the organization and what they provide to the community. I've been engaged with them and donating materials to them for, probably close to a decade at this point. And the support service that they provide for not only just material recycling and reuse in the community, but just the access to a place where contractors and builders and my entire market and industry have an opportunity to be able to not throw things into the waste stream is enormous. So I'm going to cut myself short here and thank you very much for your time, everybody.
Thank you, Gideon. I have no other hands raised at the moment, but we'll give it a moment for some folk. There's a few others actually. Yeah, Brian Eden is next. There you are.
Yeah, I'm here to speak on a potential budget item. I say potential because the item has not yet been incorporated into the budget. I was asked to participate in a recent Housing and Economic Development Committee discussion on countywide code enforcement. There's been discussion of this program among both staff and some legislators. There are 15 municipalities in the county that are meeting their code enforcement responsibilities in a variety of ways. Some municipalities have difficulty in identifying qualified staff. Many such staff have varying skill sets and familiarity with the current codes. With my experience at Heat Smart Tompkins, I observed differential inspections on similar installations. The benefits of countywide code enforcement are greater uniformity in the application of codes. Consolidation of staffing will allow the greater specialization in addressing more complex installations. Consolidated staffing will allow for greater flexibility in the assignment of tasks, as well as opening up more time for advanced code training. This is much like our county program discussions on the efficiencies to be realized from shared services. So I advocate for funding to conduct a study such as that was done in about 2 years ago in Tioga County to determine the benefits, drawbacks, and costs of a transition to countywide code enforcement. And the next issue is some of the legislators here are aware that I've been working on ensuring health equity between residents of market rate housing and those living in affordable apartments. Indoor air quality is negatively impacted by the combustion of fossil fuels in homes for heating, cooking, and domestic hot water. Some of you may have seen heard on NPR this morning a 7-minute segment calling "We Need to Talk About Your Gas Stove and Your Health." Virtually all market rate multifamily housing that's been built recently in Tompkins County has utilized heat pumps. In addition to eliminating the combustion problem, they provide access to cooling. I've been talking with the project developer for the soon to be rebuilt 82 units of Northside Apartments. Preliminarily, he is planning on using gas for heating. With a new energy code recently adopted by the city, this will tighten the building envelope and substantially increase the potential for indoor air pollution. Young children whose respiratory systems are in development are particularly vulnerable. I'm not advocating that the LMI community residents be provided with the bells and whistles of market rate housing, but I argue that the health consequences between housing types should not be significantly different. Although not directly germane to this, I would like to support Sunflower House's transitional housing program. I will not reiterate the well-reasoned statements and support made here recently by others. Traditionally, these recently released from incarceration will have limited housing options, substandard housing, the homeless shelter, or crowded apartments with family members. Finding a code-compliant apartment should not be one of the impediments to a successful reentry. I believe that this program will be very beneficial to county residents. Thanks so much for the opportunity to speak to you about these issues.
Thank you, Brian. Next, we have Carrie Armstrong.
Hi, yes. I am a local daycare provider in Lansing. My husband and I run a family group daycare. And I would just like to say, without all of the help from the daycare council and all the funding that they've been able to help us, I don't know how we would have been able to survive through COVID. So I would just like to thank you, and I would hope that you can continue to support and give them funds so they can continue to help us and other providers, because we know how desperate there is for childcare right now, and children just need to be able to find care. And I know that there is not enough in Tompkins County. So without the help of the council, providers aren't able to start up. So I would just like to say thank you again, and I hope that you are able to help with more funds. Have a great night.
Thank you, Carrie. Are there any other members of the community who would like to speak tonight? You can use the raise hand function here in Zoom, and I'll elevate you to be allowed to speak. We'll give it a minute or two in case anyone else wants to raise their hand.
Dominic, it kind of looks like people are talked out, but I want to thank you and Lisa. And I want to thank all the members of the public, whether they're just watching or whether they spoke. This is more participation in our annual budget forum than we've had in the previous 3 years put together, which just shows that sometimes Zoom can be a very good thing. We appreciate your input and we take it to heart. So if no one else wants to speak, I think perhaps we're done.
Okay. I think we've given everyone the chance to use the raise hand feature. I'm not seeing anything in the chat. So thank you, Deborah. If I get any other questions from folks, or comments, I'll pass them along to the legislature, and we'll end for this evening. Have a good night, all.
Thank you.